2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
Hey, welcome to 2414. We are back after a 6-month hiatus, it feels like. Maybe 1.5 months.
No.
Okay, 6 weeks. My name's Dan Weber. I get to serve as pastor here at St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federoy, Washington, sitting at the table with my good friend, colleague, co-worker, competitor, and sometimes rival, Shane Dwayne Welter. Shane, good to see you.
Purely rival.
Just rival, not friend, not coworker. We tolerate one another in the office.
It's like when I was in college, I told all my closest friends, I was like, I'm going to tell everyone you were just my roommate in college. Like that's like what are you to me? Roommate. That's like when a house has like a cat and a dog, but they just ignore each other. Like we have to live under the same roof, but we don't have to like it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So our bitter rivalry.
Well, with that said, we have a podcast. It's called 2414. We take the name from Luke chapter 24, verse 14, where two guys are on the road and they're walking and they're talking about life, the things that have happened, and they're grieving. They had hope. And in the midst of that, the risen Jesus shows up and brings life to them. Specifically, he points out how the Old Testament is pointing to him as the resurrected Savior, but taking our kind of cue from that scripture, we want to talk about the things that are going on, creating space for conversation. So if you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, maybe you've missed us the last 6 weeks, we've missed you, we've missed recording, but we have other responsibilities and callings that take a lot of our time. So what we'd like to do is we have highs and lows, just sharing joys and challenges together, and then kind of dig into some conversation. Today, we're going to look back at the months of November and December, specifically here at St. Luke's, but I think it might apply to you, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian or a different church member, looking at sort of stewardship and community and how we give charitably and think about others. So we'll kind of see where that goes. Mm-hmm. So Shane, kick us off. Lows, highs in the last 6 weeks, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or last 6 minutes if you want.
Oh man. Yeah. I feel like I could reflect on so much. I feel like I'll do a high and low. That's
also just what's been happening in your life, I guess, too.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of what's relevant to the time. Obviously, since then we've had our Christmas services. We got to go home to Wisconsin. Those are all great highs. Being able to do that, but something more pertaining to this, I think, time and place. I'll say low first, and then I'll end more positively. But I'd say low. Just kind of been in a mental funk recently. It's just. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the lack of direct sunlight on my skin and not as much vitamin D.
Okay. Do you mean emotional or mental or
both? Okay. Yeah. They kind of pretty much tie into each other, I'd say.
Okay. When you said mental, I was thinking it's foggy, I can't think straight, as opposed to I'm feeling down.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's probably a bit of both. Sure. I can't think straight. And so then feel very blah and mundane, or I don't know what are good words to describe it. But, yeah, so just that not as enthusiastic as I want to be in life and motivated and other things. The high of that, and maybe it's a weird flip high, but I don't feel alone in that. I know there's so many other people who are kind of in the same it's just the season right now. Whether it whether it's the weather, whether it's because people are grumpy, whether it's because the Packers got beat in the playoffs. I don't know. But I don't know. It's just a funk. And I think, but the flip side of that, I felt a little more solace. Yesterday we had our potluck, what the words, a potluck. And it was just really nice just talking to people, talking about life. And we didn't talk about my work or anything. We just purely just talked about life, and it was just really pleasant, really nice. And then afterwards we were with some other kind of friends and met some new people, and like, it was just really nice, like conversing, being around people. It was just really like energizing. Like, oh, this is nice. So, yeah. Okay. So funk, low highs. I'm not alone, but people sometimes suck, and sometimes people are awesome.
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's like that old study of negative feedback versus positive, that, you know, you need something like 7 encouragements for every, you know, critique. And I think that's true just in positive versus negative interactions of a negative thing can be so weighing down and distracting, and it might feel like there's more of them, but you just need a lot of positivity sometimes to get out of that.
Yeah. And I'd say too, like, something that hasn't helped, like, I've been planning an event weekend for many a months, and like giving a lot of notice, and then there's been a good amount of, like, I would call them rejections, but like declines of people like, oh, I'm not going to make it, or I can't make it. And like, it's hard to not take it personally when I'm trying to communicate so far in advance and stuff. So it's like,
yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Life is life. So we go.
C'est la vie.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Is that French?
That's French.
Okay. And so it goes? Is that?
That's life. C'est la vie. That's life.
C'est la vie. Tout fromage. Yeah, how's about you? What are some highs and lows?
Oh, Shane, I've missed you, my friend. I've missed you. I know we work together, but it's different than sitting at a table.
It's different.
Pretending like people are listening to us. No, lows for me, you know, a couple are tied together. One is communication's hard, and just feeling that over and over again of having good expectations, and how easily we get disappointed or frustrated when someone doesn't meet our expectations.
And you say like how easy it is for all of us to get discouraged, but you specifically.
I think communication is hard for all of us.
Yeah.
And it's I'm discouraged and frustrated when I can't seem to, you know, communicate clearly what I want people to know or do, or what we're doing at church or in my life. And then similarly, you know, people get frustrated at me when I'm not meeting their expectations. And so that's hard. And the other, maybe just a kind of personal, professional thing is, I love being a pastor in so many ways, and there are other times where it's so draining.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of feeling that right now. You know, even Barna is like a research group.
Yeah.
They've got a study right now, like the resilient pastor, and it's talking about just like pastors were resigning at record numbers. Of just like, why is that happening? And and you know, I feel some of those, like, you know, you got 1,000 bosses, like everyone, you know, thinks they're in charge. And there's, I think the one I've been feeling really recently is just like the emotional toll of investing in people, like, how do I say it? Like, so, you know, if you, Shane, are in the hospital, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to cry together. We're going to pray. We're going to laugh. And, you know, like, I'm going to show up for you. And, I think that's a good thing. And I think we have, you know, St. Luke's, we have about, you know, just over 300 people in a given weekend, and almost 500 people across a given month. And so that's a lot of people to emotionally be invested in. And I think appropriately, many of those people assume, hey, if I'm in the hospital, I can call the church and the pastor's going to come. And I am, like, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so that feels beautiful. But then the flip side is, like, people will just ghost us.
Yeah.
Like, so this, you know, somebody I maybe invested in and I really cared for, you know, they just stopped showing up. Like, they're just done. And then they don't return phone calls or emails. And it's like, what the heck? Like, I thought we were, like, loving each other, and then you just ghosted me.
Yeah, and that's it's hard because like relationships, especially on such a personal level, like, are an investment of your time, energy, and just emotion that you've poured into these people, and like for people to just turn around and like, that is.
So like if you had a good friend who just like you did life together and you played and laughed together and cried together, and then they just like blocked your number out of nowhere. Like that hurts.
Yeah.
And yet, like as a church, that might happen to me 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Or like this person, like I thought we were loving each other. I thought we were in a thing. Oh, and we changed the church time one day, and now you're dodging my calls and not answering my emails, and you're quitting the church. Like I thought we like were friends.
Yeah.
So like that's just like it makes it really hard to keep investing in people because I'm tired of getting hurt.
Yeah.
Like I'm really tired of like I'm going to be there for you, but you might bail on me at no notice, drop of a dime, and this isn't a cult, right? I'm not going to hound you.
Yeah. Like you're not.
I'm not.
You have no obligation.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah, like you don't, in a certain sense, you don't owe the organization anything. I'm not gonna harass you to come back.
Yeah.
But like, I thought we loved each other, and we can't talk through this thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, just like, and then you bump into him at Costco, and it's like, oh, this is awkward because we loved each other, and then you completely bailed on us.
Yeah.
And never said a word, and now we got to pretend like that didn't happen.
Yeah. At that point, like it's like,
And then just like didn't show up on Sunday, and I got 300 people here who I want to love and I want to be there for, but on a day's notice, any of them could bail.
yeah.
So it's like it's just a really weird one-sided dynamic at times where it's I feel like I'm just serving, and sometimes it feels very mutual, and we have incredible people who are serving here at St. Luke's, but also like with no notice because of some slip up or misunderstanding, it's just done.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a long low. I'm sorry.
No, it's real in real life, and I think it's a reflection of where we're at right now at this time and moment, like while recording this podcast. Like I think it's neat to say that like I don't know, listen to a fair amount of podcasts, and they talk about, the hosts talk about many a deep things, and it's great conversation. But I don't know, oftentimes you're like, I don't know what's actually going on in the hosts' lives. Like again, we're not like being overly personal, but we can also share like, it's a rough season.
Yeah. So that's my low. Highs, I've been enjoying running again. So I always think of myself as a runner. And there are seasons where I'm not running very often, and then you start running and it's really hard and no fun. And then if I stick with it for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, it starts to get fun again. And
see, like after a month and a half.
Yeah, like most things are, if you play basketball, you might not make your shots right away, but it's probably fun the first time you've played after 6 months. Yeah. Running is not fun for about a month. And then it slowly gets fun, and then it's really fun. And then the longer the run, the more fun it feels.
So is it not fun because your body is just not acclimated to it yet?
Yeah, just out of shape. Aerobically, kind of cardiovascularly, just you're huffing and puffing, and I have this memory of I used to be able to run 10 miles and have a conversation. Now I can't run 2 without just being sweating and walking up the hills, and then you start to build up some endurance, and your muscles start to remember. And so as of the recording of this, I'm running about 50 miles a week, and it's like super fun. So I feel in shape. I love working hard. I love being tired afterwards. I love being out in the woods. I've been meeting people in the woods.
Oh, wow.
I met a person who kind of used to be active here at St. Luke's. We met on the trails, and he's been coming to church. We're running regularly now. And,
wow.
So it's time with friends. It's conversation. So yeah, I love it.
It's a crazy way to meet people.
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying the woods. Is this Dash Point?
Yeah. So the Dash Point State Park here in Federal Way. It's a 400-acre state park, and I was doing like a 16-mile run a couple weeks ago, and I went by some guy, and he kind of stopped me, and he goes, "Hey, I think you're my pastor." And I was like, "I'm sorry, dude, I can't think of your name right now."
Wow.
Meanwhile, like I'm wounded. I'm like, I can't invest in more people because they always just bail on me. Yeah. But here we go again. Let's try this.
Maybe it won't happen.
So yeah, that's been a real good high, and I'm sleeping really well as a result.
That's really great.
So
because that's one way to make your body naturally tired.
That's right. Just fatigue. Just wear it out.
Just wear it out. As if it's not worn out already. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh man. I wanted to ask too. Yeah. This is a fake question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So why have you been running so much?
Oh, that's good. That's a nice, smooth transition.
Yeah.
Well, one, I just like it anyway. But to getting to our topic at hand, in November, we kind of rolled out a capital campaign or a stewardship series here at St. Luke's called Forward Together. And we want to emphasize two things. One is looking forward to the future of this church, specifically relieving some of the debt from our mortgage. So our financial goal over the course of these 7 weeks to end the year was to have people donate $100,000 to reduce our mortgage principal. And together, we wanted every man, woman, and child to be committed, whether that's $1 or $10,000. I want the people here at St. Luke's to say, this is my church. I'm not just a consumer. I'm not just an observer, but we are the church. This is our church. We're in it together.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the overarching scope of the series, $100,000 towards the mortgage, and 400 people. That was our goal. 400 individuals to say, I'm in, whether it was an empty envelope that was a symbolic commitment or an actual gift. And so to have some fun with it, to incentivize it, for our together goal of 400 people, our associate pastor, David Lafleur, committed to wearing a costume for our announcements for every 40 people that made a commitment. Every 40 people who made a donation, David said, one of the video announcements this upcoming year, he would wear a costume. And so if 400 people did it, that would be 10.
Oh.
Yeah. And then my commitment was, for every $1,000 that's donated, I will
up to
$100,000. For every $1,000 that's donated, up to $100,000, I would run a mile, kind of combined. So if we had $100,000 donated, I would participate in a 100-mile race. So now I'm training for that. So we exceeded our goal. For our financial goal, we ended up with about $115,000. So I'm glad I included up to in my commitment.
Yeah.
So up to 100 miles.
I can imagine 15 miles makes all the difference.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine.
In 100.
I can't imagine.
I honestly could have a whole episode of just talking about 100 miles. Calling it a race, I feel like it isn't
an event.
Yeah, like
an activity.
As if people, I guess there are probably some people who are actually competing to finish first.
Yeah.
But it's just...
I want to finish.
Yeah, I think most people just want to finish that. Like,
yeah.
I don't care about anyone else in this event. I just want to live. Like,
yeah. So we can talk about that now. We'll talk about it later. But as that gets closer, that'll certainly be more on my mind.
That's true. Yeah. So when is that?
So that'll be Memorial Day weekend. That Saturday morning at 6 a.m.
Memorial Day. I always get that mixed up.
That's the one in May.
Day.
Yeah, Labor Day.
Okay. Labor Day's August.
Pool season in many places is from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Pool season.
Pool season?
Is that
like the water parks?
Oh, I mean like billiards.
Oh, pool.
I was like, are there seasons?
No,
for pool?
like neighborhood pools, or if the community
like
center swimming. Yeah.
Okay.
Swimming pools.
I was like, why do you care about billiards? So much?
Gambling pools, office pools. Tide pools. All right, we're going to do a switch to a quick game of Outburst here. Top 10 pools on the board.
Category's just pools. Go.
No, so Memorial Day is the end of May.
Okay. All right. I always get those mixed up. That's still crazy to me. 100 miles. So you're obviously training for that. Like,
I'm training.
Thick of that.
Today's my off day. Tomorrow I'm going to run 20 miles, 10 miles the next day. So about 54 miles this week. It's slowly ramping up.
54 in the total week?
Yeah, 7 over these 7 days.
Okay.
So
with the rest day?
I take Sundays and Thursdays off. So I take 2 days off. So that means my 54 miles is spread out over 5 days. So that's 10 and a quarter miles an average each day.
Okay. Oh, man.
And so some of these days get full. So like last night, I didn't get home from our just day of work and Taste of St. Luke's until just about 8 o'clock. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, well, let's fire up the treadmill. So,
Oh, this was on the treadmill too.
so last night it was cold and rainy and dark.
dark. Yeah, I feel like dark is a hard motivator.
So actually, I did 8 miles on the treadmill last night, and I watched YouTube. You'd appreciate this, Shane.
Yes.
It was like most heartbreaking defeats in the NFL playoffs.
That actually popped up in my.
Okay.
I didn't watch it.
It was like
yet.
34 minutes of like 12-second clips or 20-second clips of
Yeah.
either an interception at the end or a come from behind touchdown or a field goal off the upright. And the Packers
yes.
were in like half the clips.
Yep,
Some good, some less.
Yeah, I already know all of them by heart.
Yeah, there was a Favre
rough.
interception right at the end. There was a field goal missed from like, I don't know, the 4-yard line. There were several Packer moments.
It's rough. But then again, yeah, Seahawk fans and Packer fans can both relate in misery. So
Yeah.
we've got that in common.
So Forward Together, we had $115,000 donated, which is incredible.
Yes.
So that is going to take more than a year off of our mortgage and save us something like $80,000 in interest.
In the total.
Yeah, over the course of the rest of the loan.
$80,000 in interest is insane.
Yeah.
To fathom and process. It's
pretty awesome.
Little small world like that. So okay, so 115,000 off. What was the mortgage?
How much did we owe or do we owe?
Yeah.
Like 1.5 million.
Okay.
So
that
big chunk.
That is a big chunk off
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's also just, it's just crazy. I like that. It's a big mortgage too. Like,
Yeah, buildings cost money, and it's part of the together aspect of Forward Together at a church is, the word of God is living and active, and the gospel is the power of God unto salvation, and the church of Jesus can exist in homes, in countries where it's illegal to gather. We don't have to have a building, and like that's really true. We don't have to. At the same time, many communities of faith think, and I happen to think this way, that if we have a building and a place to gather and staff, we might be more effective in our ministry.
Yeah.
We can do more by coming together. You can pray in your bedroom by yourself, and you can pray with your kid or your spouse. But what if you get to sing and pray with a couple dozen people? Like, that's pretty beautiful.
share the same belief as
Yeah,
you.
who can encourage you and pray with you and support you. Like there's a beautiful thing about the visible gathered church. That there's an invisible reality that God has called a people to himself by faith, but he gifts us at times with tangible expressions of that people don't always have. If you're in a nursing home by yourself, if you're incarcerated, if you're in a country where being a Christian's illegal, you might dream of, gosh, what would it be like to hold hands and pray with another Christian, or to hear somebody else teach me the word of God rather than just like kind of talk to myself about it.
Yeah.
So the visible church is a gift.
Yes.
And there's just costs with that. Like, and
Like literal costs?
yeah, like $1.5 million loan to pay for the building.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it is. Like, and we've got incredible volunteers, and some people might volunteer by sharpening the pencils in the pews. Other people might volunteer by making the coffee, or by teaching Sunday school, or mowing the lawn. And like, that's all amazing. But I also know that sometimes people think, well, I don't give financially because I volunteer. Like, okay, like I appreciate your service, but we owe $1.5 million for the building. And
it's not going away.
Sharpening pencils isn't going to do that. And I really love having a worship director, and he needs to eat and be able to pay his rent. So, you sharpening pencils is a beautiful service, but it doesn't pay for the staff position, which we don't have to have the staff position.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, sorry, Shane. No, I'm just kidding. So all this to say is like the finances. It's a real part of life.
Yeah. Man, I thought I had a thought. Yeah, but nevertheless, yeah, my mom just went.
That's okay. So
Sorry.
together, so the aspect of the together, we wanted to help process with the church here. What does it look like to see that we're all part of this? that we're not just waiting for people to die and leave an estate gift. We're not just waiting for, the financially, most well-off people to write big checks. Mm-hmm. I want the 8-year-old to put a nickel in the offering plate, because this is their church. Not just it will be someday, not like in a pat in the head of, oh, isn't it cute that the kid gave what they could? No, this is your church, and your gift matters, and we're in this together, and we all do what we can.
Yeah, because if you care about, I don't know, ministry, discipleship, proclaiming the gospel, and the mission of our church through Jesus Christ, this is part of the steps, to proclaim that ministry,
Yeah, and we have to start sometime. So I know different people give differently, and maybe friends who are listening, maybe you don't give to your church or any other charity. That's okay. I love you. God's grace is sufficient for you. But if the church is going to continue kind of with buildings and staff and the ways that we have to do business, it takes people to be generous. And if you've never been generous, I tell you what, I bet it's really, really hard to go from giving $0 a year to maybe I'll just give $10,000 this year.
Yeah, it's a hard. I don't blame people.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing to just go cold turkey on.
Yeah, especially for people who are just newly getting connected with this, church, or I guess people who might be looking from the inside and in. It seems weird. It seems like why I don't trust you guys yet.
Sure,
I don't know what's going on.
And that's totally reasonable. You're visiting a church or organization. I think you have every right to be questioning or skeptical or ask for some transparency of where is this going.
Yeah, I think I could talk a lot about there's a lot of reasons. There was a lot of importance to this campaign, this mission we had of raising $100,000 to put to our mortgage. But for me, I as being on staff, it's something I now that we're past the not past it, but we finished our Forward Together campaign.
Yeah.
And the money that was put towards that goal of 100,000, we exceeded. And I'm very grateful to see at the beginning when we started it, it was a little very nerve-wracking. We're all right, our goal is 100,000. We're
That's a big ask out of nowhere.
And I think we were at $300.
Sure.
After the first week and a half, and I was at this rate, we might get 10,000.
Which would be an incredible generosity from God's people, but not what we were shooting for.
Yeah. And we had that goal, we had that vision, not just for the 100,000, but with that money taken off the mortgage, it's gonna save a lot more money in the long run. And it was just really amazing to see the people of God step up, and $115,000 to put towards that. It already opens so many doors in this coming year.
Yeah, so eventually, we will have paid off our mortgage, and that will free up all kinds of opportunities for mission and ministry. But even in this next year, the impact in our interest is going to be significant. Mm-hmm. We're a very frugal staff and congregation around here. We stretch our dollars real far. Having $3,000 back in the budget, we can do a lot with that.
Yeah, that's that's in some ways that's less, or that's more money than it take to get a podcast started. So what we're doing now, $3,000. We just saying dude, we created a whole podcast and show for less than $3,000.
Yes, so with what we're going to save in 1 year in interest next year, it allows to do something like this episode, all the equipment, everything.
Yeah, this is just an example. Not saying we start another podcast, a whole other space, but there's good ministry that we can do. and I don't know what that looks like at the moment yet, but it's just, it saves a lot of money and it opens the doors for a lot of discipleship in the coming years.
So I get to work with the youth gathering for our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. It happens every 3 years, and we had a meeting down in New Orleans last week, and they were sharing some stats, and I didn't think to bring the numbers with me, so I can't speak very specifically, but they shared... So there are about 6,000 LCMS congregations in America, and they shared some stat, like basically most of them don't have a staff person for youth.
So so what was that number?
I don't remember what the actual percentage was, but
not percentage. The number.
So
of
6,000 congregations.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So most do not have a paid person to work with the youth, and even the churches that do have like a youth pastor or a director of Christian education. A large percentage, I want to say like it was like 40%, but a very large percent
of the ones that do.
Of the ones who do have a staff person, their entire youth budget is less than $500. So like, we can say we care about the kids and the youth, but less than $500 of the church's budget is to support youth ministry. And so, so even if our whatever $3,000 or $4,000 of savings next year, even if that all went to youth, like hallelujah, like it'll probably get spread out in various ways, but even a increase of $2,000 to our youth ministry budget is 4 times more than most churches have for youth ministry.
That's insane. Like, it's just $500. I'm still relishing on the $500 for like a youth budget, like that. We can buy pizza, a couple times a year, and I guarantee you, there's been a DVD. There's been multiple like days where that entire budget was spent for good reason, for youth related things. But I think of our Easter breakfast. The funds for that go towards the youth program. I think it's a lot. I think it's more than $500 that's spent on food. Which is just crazy.
And that's a fundraiser, so hopefully they're coming out ahead.
Well, yes. I mean, you're not. It's not like waste, throwing it in the trash. And it's just like, we're buying $500 worth of food to just eat. No, there's a reason for it. But you got to have that budgeted money to fundraise.
Yeah. So I love that those the whole Forward Together campaign kind of at its heart was about others. So paying off the mortgage is important, but it's not fun. It's a really boring goal. It's not sexy. It's not like we're going to get a giant new espresso machine so everybody gets, awesome espressos on Sunday mornings. That sounds good. I like that. I'll put $50 towards that.
That would probably cost the same amount of what we raised right now.
But there are things that are immediately rewarding, and that's good. We should do things that are good. But the idea of paying off a mortgage is not immediately good or self-serving.
Yeah.
It compels us to think about others, and that's really unnatural for us.
And I really hope that people who gave contributed towards this realize that it gave you listening a moment to think of why am I doing this? What is this for? Other than just our brain sees a number that has to be complete from 0 to 100, and I got to complete it. I hope we listeners at home just see the bigger picture in that.
Yeah, and that's partly why I was saying whether somebody's part of a different church or no church at all, I think this conversation can be informative just to get us out of ourselves for a moment of how can we love others well. Mm-hmm. And the Christian faith is fundamentally about God's grace in Jesus. It's not about being good boys and girls and just love your neighbor. Mm-hmm. In a certain sense, many religions and faiths, teach that, and no religion and faith, you can still be a beautifully loving person. So our church is not fundamentally about just be a good person, but at the same time, be a good person. There's something really important about getting outside of ourselves. Martin Luther described sin as being curved in on oneself, just being like consumed with self.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a mean or a harmful or a something that's damaging yourself or others, it's not good to just be self-centered. Mm-hmm. And even that word is really, I think, helpful. Self-centered.
Yeah.
That sounds like a bad word.
I hope it is. Like in some ways it is.
But we all function that way. Just practically speaking, I see the entire world from my point of view. So if I was on a swivel chair and I swiveled in 360 degrees in a circle, the whole world is literally revolving around me. Like my point of view is I'm in the middle of everything I see. Mm-hmm. Like just basically, biologically speaking, everything I see is around me, and I'm in the middle of everything I see.
Yeah. So like you don't like.
That's just reality.
Like I don't blame people for the way they are. Like
I only think my thoughts.
Yeah.
It's work to think what. To try to think else. What you're, thinking. And even if you're telling me what you're thinking, it's work to listen and to process.
Yeah.
And not just, that reminds me of something about me. Speaking of the thing you said, let me tell you about me. Mm-hmm. As Shane is thinking this. He's feeling this. Mm-hmm. That act of considering another is hard. Yeah. And it's unnatural to us.
And I really believe, as much as people, I don't know, you know the saying you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others.
Sure. Can I put your own oxygen mask on first?
Yeah, I think there's so much validity in that. You can't, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's hard to take care of others. And I've seen people who take way too much care for others, and they're decaying from that.
Yeah.
But I also I find so much positivity and encouragement. Just when you do get the opportunity to listen to somebody, to be with somebody, doing this right now, just listening and talking, it's good. I say this coming from a generation who spends a lot of time alone. I know and can say a lot of people my age and younger, we're probably more isolated than ever before. And yes, we're connected through different means than in any other time in history, through internet and phones and other digital online ways to communicate, which is great. It's a great tool, but it is different than meeting somebody in person, being with somebody in person, spending quality time with one another. So to be able to say, I listen to this person, I can see what they're going through, and to relate it to, why is it important we invest in one another, invest in communities, invest time and energy towards one another. It is good. Going back to selfishly, I think it is good for you.
I think loving others well is hopefully a blessing to them, but it's life-giving to you. Mm-hmm. And I'd say from a Christian point of view, this isn't surprising. This is what God made us for. We are in the groove of this is what I was designed for. When we're loving others well, that's what you were made for. Yeah. So when something's doing the very thing it was designed to do, that's good.
Yeah, and that's why it's amazing. All right, now loving one another and coming together is amazing. Now imagine doing that, having one intentional time to a week, let's say once a week, to come together as a community under the same banner of belief. That would be awesome. And that's kind of what church is.
That's kind of what we do.
That's kind of what we do. And it's so sad to me because the more people I meet, I guess I could be direct. The more people I meet in the Northwest specifically, I can't say the same from the Midwest because the culture it's just different.
Yep.
They're very different. But more and more people I meet in the Northwest, there's just so many people I talk to who are religious. They have their, they know what they believe. But then they say I'm not part of church. I don't want to be part of a church. Like,
yeah, they're kind of going solo.
Yeah.
Like, whether they're Christian or not.
Yeah. I've met people who like were burned by the church and don't want anything to do with religion and belief, and like they don't believe anything anymore, or just not to walk like the Christian faith. But the people who do choose to walk the Christian faith, and still don't attend a church, or they don't have a community of faith behind them, it always hurts to hear, because I know there are bad and corrupt churches. Like,
yep.
There are bad people in this world, and there are people who use people's deepest emotional, spiritual level to manipulate them. Yeah. And it's sad. It's so sad to see. But I hope and pray like that doesn't take away from people. Like church is messy, but like in church, like people in church are sinful. But the community of faith is something that's core. It's something that's so important. Like, yeah. And I want people to see it. And like, I don't think we're the best at explaining it a lot of times. Like, and it's hard to explain that and walk through that on every Sunday morning. Like, sometimes we just need to come together and just receive the good news, mm-hmm. like of that Christ is risen and you are saved. Like, yes, amen. But it's hard to also talk about like the community of faith and like the fellowship of believers coming together under the same banner of faith, and that we can walk with one another through our daily struggles and endeavors. Like, that's amazing. But to have so many people, specifically in the Northwest, who have had that bridge burned in their life, who have been hurt by it, like, it sucks. It sucks to see. And I don't know, it kind of comes back to this like Forward Together campaign. Like, we really are like in this together. Like, we really need to walk together. Like,
yeah. We're not made to be alone, and we can be an encouragement in so many ways together. Mm-hmm. I mean, not selfishly. In my family's life, I think about my kids. So my kids are 9, 11, 13, and so my 11-year-old, you know, I can think of a good half dozen people, like kids his age, who used to go to church and Sunday school here, who don't. Mm-hmm. And maybe they go somewhere else, maybe they go nowhere. And I could probably think of a handful of kids who occasionally participate here. Mm-hmm. So what that means is on a particular like Sunday school, Sunday morning, maybe there's 3 kids that age, mm-hmm. right, in that class. But the other 12 or 15, you know, maybe they're at home, maybe they're sleeping in, maybe their parents think, you know what, like, we know what we believe, we don't need to be there. You know, or mm-hmm. we have family devotions, we don't have to go to church. And in a certain sense, that's true. But those like 3 kids who are showing up, or that one kid who's home alone, there's a very real chance they feel alone in their faith. And imagine if 15 kids who believe the same thing were there to encourage each other and say, this is hard, and I've got questions, and I'm not alone in that question, and I don't have to be embarrassed to ask that question, and we can explore it together. The gift of that community, mm-hmm. you can't replicate at home.
No.
Or Christmas and Easter, or like, you know, like, and if you're a Christmas and Easter Christian, great, I'm glad you're there, but you're robbing yourself from community, and you're robbing the community of you. Like, we're not the same without you. Yeah. And so, and each person is only one person, and yet, you know, 51 persons is 50 people. Mm-hmm. And so like every person who chooses to remove themselves from the community for a reason that feels really justifiable and by itself is not a big deal, when that gets spread out over a bunch of people, that there's a big gap, there's a big hole, and we're not the same without you. That's the same for you and me, Shane. When, you know, we need each other, we need the church needs us. Yeah, not in the sense of I have to be the pastor, you have to be the musician, but
and then you have to do it all, and like,
but just as people, like, we're in this together. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that sounds negative, but to me, it's just exciting to see, you know, sacrificial love might just mean show up, even if it's not your favorite song that day, even if the sermon was kind of boring, we're not the same without you, and we get to love other people simply by being in the room. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're a young person, you showing up and standing up and sitting down and singing the songs might be such a blessing to those 40 grandmas spread throughout the room that, you know what, the church is going to be okay. And you 40 grandmas throughout the room, to see your gray hair or blue hair and your warbly voice singing, some kid's going to look around and go, oh, so this isn't just because my parents tell me, and it's not just for kids to learn the stories, but this is something that people for decades cling to and hope, and it means something. Like that embodied participation in the church service might communicate more than the sermon. Or at least communicate something different in a different way, that these work together. So church is not just expressing myself through song or learning through the sermon, but it's a life, a way of life, and the gift of life. And we need all of the people of God. Otherwise, it's not whole.
And we want to set you up like to live that life. So like the other, I think, misconception of church too is like, I'm going to church once a week and that's my like holy place, and that's where I'm gonna kind of live my Christian life at church. Like, no, I mean, like you come to church, but we want to prepare you to live your life of faith in the world. Like, and not to say like the church isn't the real world, and once you're going out, it's, you know, it's completely different. Yes, like your church life and work life might look completely different, but you want to believe the same. You want to have the same belief for both. Like,
we should be consistent and not like hypocrites, and in the sense of what is my Wednesday night compared to Sunday morning?
Yeah,
it should be. We should be consistent and have integrity is maybe a good word for that.
Yeah, and so in your daily callings of life, like from coming to church, I hope through that you're re-energized going into the world to share your faith, to live your walk of faith, to help your neighbor because they need help. Like,
yeah, we could spend a whole series on this.
Yes.
Maybe we should, Shane, but I just want to say, a mutual acquaintance of ours, Jim Marriott, he describes Sunday morning in a certain sense as rehearsal for the rest of the week. So when we gather for church, God's word is active and we are receiving his gifts. It's not a pretend thing. We believe that people are being baptized into Christ. We are receiving the very body and blood of Jesus through the Lord's Supper. We are singing his praise, and he's receiving that, and he's forgiving our sins. So it's a real thing, but it's also forming us and shaping us in the patterns of what the rest of the week should look like, so that we begin by calling on God's name. You know, what if you have your cup of coffee or driving to the school or the work, and you're like, I'm going forth in the name of the Lord. Like, if this is in God's name and I'm under his care, that might change how you watch the news or how you interact with your neighbors, what you might speak. Yeah. And if we move from I'm embarking in God's name to, you know what, I need to confess my sins and be forgiven, that's just part of our rhythm of, oh, my bad. And other people say my bad, and I have good news and grace for you. And we read God's word and we reflect on it and we pray and we sing that these are the rhythms of the Christian life. It's not an isolated thing from the rest of the week, but it's hopefully setting the table and the pattern of what life itself looks like. Not just to be a good little boy or girl in Jesus' name, but this is a life well lived.
Yeah, I guess to maybe like loop it back to Forward Together, and kind of when you are committing something like financially, like to investing in, not investing, but like
committing is a good word for it. Sacrificing for.
Yeah, like committing and to give, to tithe, whatever, sacrificially give. Kind of part of church. I think it's part of the rehearsal of life. Like,
die to yourself, live for others.
Yeah, just like, again, like this, I know we've got money and a lot of possessions in this world, but I also know there's a lot of people who need it more than me. So
yeah, that little moment of offering, I think if I can go back to my Jim Marriott comment, that the moment of offering is maybe you give online, maybe if you put a $10 bill in or you write a check, that itself is shaping us to see ourselves as stewards, as people who are taking care of what's been entrusted to us. It shapes us to be sacrificial. It's that pattern of I am called to care for others. I'm called to lift others up. I'm called to think of others more highly than myself. So yeah, that moment of offering is shaping us. That's what the mind of Christ is. In humility, he considered others more significant. And Paul says in Philippians 2, have this mind among yourselves. Like, this is how we ought to be. And so, yeah, the offering is a moment where not only is the immediate financial gift significant for the life of the church, but it's shaping our hearts. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I do want to kind of cover and process a few other things with Forward Together. So,
okay, man, keep going. All right, I was ready to play a game, but keep
I
doing
still
it.
want to. I definitely want to.
All right.
But I do want to say, so we got 115,000. And what was the 115,000 out of the 100,000 number goal? But we had two goals in this.
Yeah, the second goal was 400 individuals committed or participating.
Yes, and which I want to add. Our weekly attendance is a little over 300, and we've got about 500 people in a given month.
Yes, so we have 462 members who are like official members of St. Luke's.
Yeah,
and we have about 500 people, 450 people in a given month, and a lot of our members aren't actually able to be here. They're homebound, or we just frankly haven't seen them for a while. So we have a lot of visitors who are not members. So if you add...
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
So if you add the people who are here in a given month, plus our official membership, that's about 600 people that we have a sort of ongoing relationship with. So when we picked 400 as a number, it wasn't just like out of the blue or some like shoot for the moon. It's like, no, this is a modest. I mean, it's a big goal, 400 people.
Yeah.
But it accurately, I think, represents some optimism, but our membership versus our participants and guests, it's I think a pretty reasonable goal. Mm-hmm. So we ended up with 317 people made a contribution
of different names.
Yeah, individual
names we've
so the Webbers, there's my wife and I and our three kids. So if we each filled out an envelope or gave a gift, that would be 5. If one of us did on behalf of the family, that would be 1. And so some of this is just a communication thing. Like I was saying earlier, it's hard to communicate.
Yeah.
So I think
it is. It's a little,
but we wanted individuals because I don't want I do want my kids to see this as their church. I wanted them to make a gift of their own choosing. And they did. And I really celebrate that. And so if I just wrote the check myself on their behalf, they're not owning it. They're not participating in that. It's not creating the habit for them. Yeah. So the reason for the individual head count instead of household is not to say like husband and wife shouldn't talk to each other or one can't give as the family. But I wanted each person to say, this is my church. So but that's hard to communicate. So I think there were a number of families where one person in the household gave. So we had 317 individuals give. If we added the household members of those, so if you gave and Lauren didn't, you would count as 1. But I know Lauren's in your household, so if I were to expand the individual givers to the rest of the household, our number goes up from 317 to 370. So that's 93% of our goal. So we ended up with, depending on how you count, between 80 and 93% of our goal. So somewhere between 317 and 370 individuals out of our target of 400.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. I'm curious. or it'd sound like a therapist or a counselor, but like, how does that make you feel? Like, I'm just like, because like we had a goal, and on the I guess the very, I don't want to call it real number, but like the present number like of individuals, 317, the more kind of optimistic numbers, 70.
Yeah, our more like inflated number is still not there. So it's interesting. So on the one hand, I'm really thankful of how many people who did give. So I did some attendance numbers. We did this campaign for 7 weeks. During those 7 weeks, we had 454 people who like we know by name were here at least once. And we had 400 people here twice. And we had 350 people who came 3 times. So we had this campaign for 7 weeks, and 350 people were here for at least 3 of the 7. And so, but we had more than 350 people give. So we had, somebody maybe came once or twice during the 7-week season, and they chose to make a gift. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
But we also had, 120 members not here at all for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's like, that.
Now that's a little.
That doesn't feel so good.
Yeah.
Besides the financial part, they just weren't here.
Yeah, and that's
what does it mean that you're a member of our community?
Yeah, like because when you put it like that, like if there are steps, kind of in part of this like fellowship of believers, odds are people are wanting to be involved in this community of faith before they financially give something. Maybe not all the time, but
first time visitor might give a gift and a 20-year member might not.
Yeah. So odds are the people who are committed like into our kind of our walk of faith together in discipling and being missionaries in this Federal Way area, like want to commit and sacrifice in this process. But then there's over 100 some people on the flip side of that who aren't even here. Right.
And another kind of layer to this kind of analysis is I don't see what people give. That's not something as pastor, our bookkeeper manages the finances, and that's where that goes. So
we don't know.
This Forward Together campaign was presented as above and beyond your normal giving. So it may very well be that 600 people made their normal tithes and offerings, and that's outstanding. And maybe they weren't at a spot to give more. And I didn't want people to decrease their normal giving in order to do this. The goal was maintain our normal giving, because that's how we're doing life together as a church. And can you give $1 more beyond that or something? And for some people, maybe not. So I don't have any kind of overlap or way of knowing how many, we were short of our 400 people goal, but our general offering for the month of December, we were on budget. So
that's awesome.
So I feel mixed. I'm so humbled by the number of people that did. I'm so thankful there were quite a few kids who gave.
Yeah.
And so there were envelopes with coins that didn't fit in the drop box.
Which is amazing.
And so that was probably my favorite part. I mean, I love the big number, 115,000 is incredible, but I think a lot of people gave for the first time and said, and I don't care about the giving so much as that act of commitment that says, this is my church and I'm going to think about stewarding what I have in light of others. So that, to me, that's the biggest win, is for a number of people, at least for a moment, we got beyond ourselves and we saw ourselves as part of a community that needs us and that we're part of together.
Yeah. Which is, it's amazing. I think I'll say thank you.
Absolutely.
If you committed in some way to this Forward Together, or if you even just continued your offering. Thank you. Like,
yeah. And if you couldn't, like, no guilt, no shame, not trying to put anybody down. Just,
we're all in different spots and in the ways that that we're called to be part of this. And so, yeah, whether you gave or didn't, thank you for committing, I guess.
Yeah. And whether you gave or not, I'd encourage you to, be mindful of what you're, how you're stewarding what has been entrusted to you. Mm-hmm. I like to eat and drink and do fun things. Mm-hmm. I also, I flew a couple times this last week, and I'm watching people get like $10 drinks on the plane or whatever. Oh yeah. And at the airport bar, which is fine, great. Have a martini, get a beer.
Yeah.
But also, like, that's $10. And if you're doing that regularly, maybe you could give $5 to a charity or a cause. So just be aware of. Even I was at I forget which fast food restaurant where they have like the upcharge for guacamole.
Oh, Chipotle?
Yeah,
or any of them now.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like no hesitation. Do you want guacamole? Like, yeah, hook that up. Like, for sure. And you don't even think about those few dollars.
Yeah.
And so it's great. Get the guacamole, get it smothered in cheese sauce, but just be aware of where do we choose to spend and where does our money go.
Moral of the story for this episode is guacamole is really expensive.
Guacamole is really expensive and amazing.
So again, thank you. The other thing, there were multiple times I wanted to segue and kind of into something. I guess for all
you're making
all these,
me nervous now, Shane.
No.
Okay.
For all these episodes of 2414, like I myself, I think I listened to them like pretty sporadically. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. Sometimes I'll go from like one point to the other point. Okay. It's like a long road trip or whatever. But I'm excited. Like, and I'm gonna commit this live on air. Like, but I think for our next series ahead, we're gonna talk a little about church and things that are important in this formation mm-hmm. of just coming to church and what that does in our lives. Like this ritual or this routine of showing up at church and talking about how that the formation, even from a young age, is so important in your adult life.
Yeah. So that's your teaser for the next series?
That's my little teaser. Okay. Yeah. We don't have a title for it or anything.
I'd even say that idea of church as formation is probably alien to most people.
Yeah. Because
I think it's easy to think about church as I go there and sing, or I go there and learn, or I go there and see my friends, as opposed to I'm being shaped and intentionally ordering my life around something.
Yeah.
So you're already talking crazy talk. I love it.
It is. It's crazy. It's weird, and that's why we got to have a whole series on it. So that's stuff. A little teaser. But to close out this episode, if you have no idea what the game Outburst is,
yes,
you're going to be very confused.
We're not going to tell you, or should we tell them a little bit?
I think it's good to just say. So it's an old game that's still around today, but we have an old copy of the game
from the mid '80s.
Yeah, I think from the 80s, sometime in the 80s. And it's kind of like, think Family Feud. There's a category. It's like things you buy at the grocery store.
Yep.
And we have to list the top 10 of those from the 1980 survey.
Yeah, and we don't even know if it's a survey. It might have just been some dude.
Yeah, we have no idea how it was actually the answers were formed.
Some of them seem pretty arbitrary.
And we don't play the game like it actually should be. We've
never read the rules. No.
We have no idea what the rules actually are. We just outburst as many answers we think, and if we got them, we got them.
You get to play along at home. It's fun. We have a timer. Shane, you got to get the timer. We don't know how long the timer is. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. A little, white sand hourglass. It's probably 30 seconds. So Shane or I, we will read the category aloud. We will outburst as much as we can, and then we will compare what we came up with what is revealed on the card. It's great technology. It's that old red spyglass stuff. So the paper's red. We slide it into this red plastic decoder, and then if you squint, you can see what the font is.
Yeah.
Shane, have you picked a category, or you're just going to draw out of the thing? So we have got paper and pen in front of us, so we're going to write down our verbal explosions that we outburst into the room. You can outburst while you're driving. If you're on a subway or light rail, or passenger in the car, be mindful of others around you. But invite them to play if you want. You can pause it now and tap them on the shoulder and say, "Outburst is about to start. I need you on my team."
Exactly. So, front or back?
Front.
All right.
The category is. Are you going to read it like?
Don't even know.
All right. Category is
single name entertainers.
Okay. So I'm going to flip it here. Single name entertainers. Go. Oh gosh. Share. Oh god. I can't get the thing to stand up. Share. Sunny.
Because we got to think 1980s.
Madonna.
Just say. Oh, nice. Just gonna say Jackson.
Sting. Jackson's not going to be one.
It's not.
Bowie, maybe.
Ooh.
Probably not.
Guess not. I'm just gonna say Jordan.
Who's that?
Air Jordan, Michael Jordan. He's kind of an entertainer.
Celine.
Maybe.
Boy.
Oh man. Single name entertainers.
Any dancers or other entertainers? Sinatra. I know it's not. I feel good about Sonny and Cher and Madonna and Sting. Single name entertainers.
I'm choking.
Bono.
Slash.
Oh, time.
I did not help. I did not contribute.
So at home, what did you think of that we didn't think of in terms of single name entertainers? We came up with Cher, Sonny, Madonna, Sting, Jordan, Jackson, Bowie, Celine, Sinatra, Bono, Slash. I feel good about Cher, Sonny, Madonna, Sting, Bono, and Slash. That's 6.
How many do you think?
I bet we got 5.
I'm going to say 1.
Oh, no, we got at least 5.
I'm always disappointed in the things they chose. I don't even know if we're going to know half of
You don't think we had any? Oh, yeah, that's true. Here we go. Shane, single name entertainers.
All right. Number 1, Cher.
Yeah.
I feel dumb.
Okay.
All right.
Number 2.
Charo? Charo?
Charo. Charo. Never heard of it.
Sorry, listeners, if you know.
Could be. Maybe it's a wrestler. It's probably a wrestler. It's probably not.
You're gonna.
Okay.
Elvis.
Oh, all right. That's on us.
Yep.
You even sing an Elvis song.
Yeah, I love Elvis.
Okay.
Number 4, Prince.
Oh, yeah. Prince. That's
I know.
Embarrassing.
I feel terrible.
All right, Elvis and Prince. That's on us.
I feel like I could have got this one too. Liberace.
He's a singer.
Yeah.
All right. We're at 1. Okay.
Oh, we are. Fabio.
Who is that?
I don't know.
So Fabio was this model guy. Fabio, he had like long hair.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
So I used to live in Williamsburg, Virginia, and one time he was visiting, and he went to Busch Gardens. This is a true story.
Oh, yeah.
And he was riding a roller coaster, and he got hit in the face by a bird, like a goose. Yeah, like he was on the roller coaster, and like Randy Johnson into pigeon style. Fabio like busted up his face, like bloody and covered in feathers after getting like run into by a goose on a roller coaster.
That's hilarious.
That's
in
my
Busch Gardens of all places.
In Williamsburg, Virginia. That's the only Fabio thing I know.
That's amazing.
All right, so Fabian. Not a thing.
We've got Bozo.
The clown.
I didn't know that was an
entertainer.
I didn't know that was an actual clown. I thought that was just a.
Did you ever see the Bozo show?
No, I thought that was just a neat, mean name people called clowns.
No, he.
Bozo.
What I remember about the Bozo the Clown show is they had games. It was weird, but you had to like throw ping pong balls in a bucket, and like either you backed up or you went for
the whole game.
Well, that was one of the games, and you had like start at the close bucket, and you could see how many buckets deep you could get your ping pong ball.
That sounds really boring.
TV in the 80s, Shane. It was a glorious time. Hulk Hogan.
That was the best they could do?
Bozo the Clown. Okay. All right, Bozo.
In the garage. All right. Number 8, Apollonia.
Apollonia. Is that a kind of a horse? What is that?
Sure.
I don't know.
I'd feel bad.
Sorry to Apollonia fans out
They're all
there.
80s single name entertainers.
Come on, give me
9.
Madonna and Bono.
Sting.
Okay, we got Sting. 2. And 10.
10. Lassie.
Lassie, the dog. You're giving Lassie before Madonna and Bono and Slash.
Guess Madonna was.
Or Bono.
It was just a little
Bozo.
after. More 90.
So we got
early
Bozo
90s.
and Lassie. All right. Cher and Sting. That was
rough.
that was poor.
That was rough.
Not our best moment. Do we have time for one more? Or do you have to go to your meeting?
Got time for one more.
Or
We
one
need
more.
redemption.
Lightning round. Lightning round. Redemption.
Should I just
flip it over.
All right, listeners.
Here's
You get one more chance.
play along at home safely.
All
Category is.
Category is. What?
Can't read it.
Wait. Grand blank. Fill in the blank. No relatives. Grand
Oh, so
blank.
not grandma. All right, and go. Grand Prix. Grand Old
Prix.
Opry.
Crank Canyon.
Ooh, okay. Grand Slam.
Nice.
Grand. So not grandma, not grandpa, no relatives.
Grand. Singing 100 grand.
Grand Theft Auto.
Ooh, nice. Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
not.
I mean, that's a term.
That is a term. That was not a video game yet.
Grand.
Grand Old Time.
Yep. Why not?
Grand.
Grand.
Grand Bake Off. Grand Chicken. Grand Duck. Grand Fan. Grandstands.
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 Nice. Grand home. I don't know.
Grand Home.
Grand mansion. Grand.
Grandiose.
Grandiose.
And Time.
Grandiose.
Grand Home. Show me Grand Home. All right. All right. I like.
You got to think.
I like a few of these. I think we're gonna get 4.
You got to think a 1980s vernacular.
How many? What's your number?
2.
You're such a pessimist. You're bringing me
always-
down. You're
we
breaking me
ne-
down, Shane.
I think 90% of the time
No, we got 4.
We don't get above 50.
Here we go. We got 4.
All right. Grand Canyon.
Yeah, you said that one.
I just see these and I feel dumb.
No, you said that one.
No, I know.
Okay.
I just saw the next.
Oh.
Grand Jury.
Okay. Yeah. Didn't get jury.
Did not.
Number 3.
Grand Larry. Oh, larceny.
Oh, grand
I'm
larceny.
reading in the red. Sorry.
So that's.
Grand larceny.
Is that related to Grand Theft Auto? That's a crime.
We'll find out.
All right.
Grand
I'm
larceny.
taking half credit for Grand Theft Auto.
All right, we'll see if it comes up.
All right.
You have to. All right.
Is larceny theft? What does larceny mean? Arson is burning.
Larceny.
What is larceny?
I just think crime. I don't
Okay.
actually think
All right,
specific
all right.
Grand Larson. I don't know. See, okay, now the 80s is coming out. Grand Old Party, and it says GOP in parentheses, as if that would...
Grand Old Party? Is that what the GOP stands for?
In the 80s, it must have. Grand Old Party.
Okay. I didn't know that. Man, okay. We're at 1.5.
Again, I should know this next one. Grand Piano.
Oh, Shane. Music man. You had one job.
I had one job. Grand Prix.
Yep. There we go.
Grand Slam.
Yep. There it is.
Grand Tour.
Okay.
Grand Home sounds better to me.
Grand Home.
Grand Stand.
Yes, you said that.
You did. And Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Home of Zondervan Publishing House.
It was more popular in the 80s, I guess.
I think it's still a pretty good size
I
city.
mean, it still is popular.
So we got 4.5, and I still stand by Grand Old Opry and what was the other one? I can't read my handwriting.
Wait, Grand Ole Opry.
I said that one.
Oh, is this? Yeah, yeah.
I can't even read the handwriting. Grand Crunch. What does that say? What was the 4th one I said? Oh well.
Grand Theft Auto Canyon. Was that the Canyon one?
Oh yeah.
That's probably Canyon. Well, nevertheless, we got
did
above
it. We did
one
it.
or 2.
Yeah.
So-
I guessed 4. We got 4.5.
That's a win in our book.
Thanks for playing along, friends. Thanks for listening. Think of others. Where can you be generous? Where can you have time for conversation? Where can you show up and love? It will be life-giving to both of you when you love one another.
Yeah, so thank you.
We're going to try to be more regular. At the same time, we got a lot going on like you. So our goal is weekly. Our reality is less than that. But we'll see what happens. Thanks for your patience.
Absolutely. Have a good day. Thanks for listening. See y'all later.
Take care.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 Podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.